Hello and welcome to Reasoned UK with me, Darren Grimes. Please do consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell if you enjoy today's content. Make sure you don't miss out on any future content because we've got an amazing body of work in the pipeline. Now, today the issue I'm going to be discussing is a really emotive one. It's an emotionally fraught one. And folks, you won't find it hard to recognise why that is when you hear what it is we're talking about. You see, it involves a healthy and happy 4-year-old girl, Tafida Raqeeb, of schooling age, of course, that was suddenly struck down in February of 2019 when a blood vessel burst in her brain. Now, I cannot, and I'm sure you all agree with me, imagine the pain and anguish that must wash over a parent when that happens to your child. In the autumn of 2019, Tafida's life, hung in the balance as the NHS asked the High Court to sanction her life support machine being switched off because she was going to die within weeks anyway. Can you imagine hearing that as a parent? I can't even begin. The devoted parents of this little girl, solicitor Shelina Begum and her father, refused to accept this and begged the court to save their daughter. The judge sided with the family, citing sanctity of life. And I'm delighted to say that Shelina Begum joins me now to discuss the establishment of the Tafida Raqeeb Foundation to try and ensure that scenarios like this do not happen again. Now, Shelina, thank you very much for your company. Could you just start by telling me about Tafida before February of 2019? I presume she was just like any other 4-year-old girl running around happy as Larry.
Yes, she was she was a very, very well-mannered, bubbly, very confident child, and we had a lot of dreams for her future. So she was like, very outspoken, always running to help others. So she had this extra personality. I mean, everyone will identify her as that, very bubbly, always going out of her ways to help other children. And she was, at the age of 4, a class mentor in her class, supporting other children in the class who were, for various reasons, upset, or if they had any issues, they would always come to Tafida.
Now, that morning in February then must have been the worst day of your life. Could you just tell us exactly what it was that happened?
Yes, so 9th of February will always remain a date in history for us. Um, she went to sleep, and with a promise that she was going to wake up the next morning and attend her best friend's birthday party. And Tafida also does ballet. So usually she's up 9 o'clock in the morning for the ballet class. We actually exposed her to many activities. So she went to sleep, and I mean, she did say very few unusual words to me as she went to sleep. Um, and the next morning she woke up 5 o'clock in the morning complaining of a headache, and she said, "Mummy, my head is hurting." She didn't really say it was headache. She just said, "Mummy, my head is hurting." And I asked where to feed her, and she pointed to various parts of her brain. And then with 5 minutes, exactly 5 minutes, she just stopped breathing. Paramedics came. They took her to hospital 1, which was just a normal A&E. From there, she was taken to another hospital where, because of miscommunication, they said there wasn't a bed available, even though the neurosurgeons were waiting for her. Then she was transferred to Hospital C, and that's where the surgery was performed. But that was several hours later. I mean, I'm
Uh,
not sure exact time, but I believe it was between 11 and 12, the
and
actual surgery was performed.
during this period, presumably you've been told by the NHS, look, we think that this is something to do with the brain.
So they did not say anything to us. We didn't know what was happening. We only found out 2 hours later there was a bleed in the brain. And that was it. We had, I mean, when I have flashback of the actual event, the day, I mean, I can recall every single minute of that day.
Mm.
But I wouldn't say I was really fully informed what was happening, other than 10 o'clock, 10:05. And this is how much I know the information. 10:05, the team said to me that, she has to be taken to surgery and that we need to consent. And they said, look, if we don't perform the surgery right now, she will die. You will lose her. But even if we perform the surgery, the chances are just 1%. Most likely she'll die on the table. So we were in such a dilemma. What is it that we're doing? I mean, by consenting, she's dying. Even if we don't consent, she's dying. What do? Okay, fine. We'll take that 1% chance and we'll sign it. And that's it. We'll leave it to God to decide. And that's exactly what we did. And she did. She actually defied all the odds and she survived that surgery.
It must have been incredibly stressful watching your child being passed from hospital to hospital. You must have felt a real sense of frustration, a sort of, what are these people doing? My child is very ill and is being passed like a baton from hospital to hospital.
I can assure you, I was shouting at everyone, was screaming. By the time we got to the third hospital, I was in a state of shock, and so was my husband. And then I was just numb. I just couldn't say anything anymore. But it is something that I am looking into now. The care, the failures. It is something that I am investigating exactly what happened. Why was the miscommunication that is costing my daughter her healthy life?
And Shelina, would there have been? I'm sure you will have asked these sort of questions by now. In the period of being passed from hospital to hospital, that's a period, as you describe, of at least a few hours. Would that have caused prolonged damage that Tafida
Yes.
will live with for the rest of her life?
Yes. So, well, hopefully by end of this year we'll have more reports. So it is something that's being investigated, but I have been told that the outcome would have been something else. Has she been attended to? I have been told.
So how is Tafida now?
So Tafida is now doing well. I'm not going to say she's walking and running and jumping, but she is doing far more than what the clinicians in the UK thought that she will do. So she is breathing independently. She is off the ventilator, so she is breathing. She's tracking. Every day she's emerging, I will say, and we do have other treatments lined up for her, and we are hopeful that those treatments will definitely improve her quality of life.
And I mean, I can't imagine what it must have been like. I keep saying that, but it's true. I can't. Of a hospital turning round to you and saying, as they did with Tafida, we want to withdraw life-saving treatment from your child.
So I have experienced it firsthand, and being a lawyer myself, in the last 3 years, I have seen many other cases as well, and I have gone through. And I'm just going to say that the entire, I don't know, I mean, more or less all the other families have saying the same thing. That the way the clinicians take the approach, I don't know, it's very difficult to describe. I mean, they don't, I mean, definitely there's no compassion there. Definitely no mediation. I mean, with me, they usually, to arrange mediation, it takes several weeks on end. But they were so keen on ending Tafida's life. I was only given, I mean, I had to literally force them, convince them for mediation because I didn't want a court proceedings. And they were very reluctant. And when they did agree, it was arranged within 4 days. So within 4 days, we had mediation, we had a mediator. Whereas in normal scenarios, it will take you about 2-3 months to arrange mediation. So those are the things, they did. So there wasn't any compassion. And it is the way of convincing parents to consent. If need be, they use religion as well. And they did. They said, And I was thinking, no, what do you know about Islam? They said, oh, but we do know that, Islam said, be merciful and let your child go. And I said, I'm sorry, you are reading the wrong quotes from Islam. Islam doesn't say that. We cannot give consent. We just can't give consent. Unless there are some criteria, we might be able to, but in Tafida's situation, we can't. We are not allowed. It absolutely against our religion.
How
So
did you?
that card was also used on me.
Before we get to the Gaslini, where where Tafida is now, the Gaslini Hospital in Italy. Before we get there, how did it feel when the judge turned to you in this court case? And because the court case itself must have been hell, right? The court case must have been absolute hell. When the judge says, cites sanctity of life, you must have thought, exactly, this is it in a nutshell.
Yes, I did. Because I thought sanctity of life is so important. It's so important. But we were not saying, I mean, if Tafida was really dying and we can see that she is dying, then yes, we will reconsider Islam. There is aspects of Islam that says you might be able to reconsider. But there wasn't anything like that. So this is why it was I mean, that victory day will again forever will be in history for us, and we will never forget that day and the relief that it was like as if Tafida was reborn again on that day, on that 3rd of October.
Yeah, and then the timeline of events, you have the court case, then you receive this judgment, and then how soon after that, Shelina, do you say, right, we're taking Tafida to Italy?
We took her out on the 15th of October. So we just like 10 days preparation, and then we took her out on the 15th, and she remains in Italy.
And how did you learn about this hospital in Italy? What makes it so
So
different?
I have a family friend who has actually gone to this hospital for gene therapy. Gene therapy at that time wasn't available in the UK.
Okay.
Wasn't available. So they actually went there for that gene therapy. And that's when they said, look, Gaslini, it's one of the leading in Europe for pediatric neurological conditions and what Tafida has suffered. So you should consider going there. So this is how we knew about this place.
And then are there now hospitals like the Gaslini in Britain?
I'm gonna say Gaslini is like equivalent to Great Ormond Street Hospital.
So this is an amazing one of a kind.
Yes. I mean, the thing is, there are still many treatments which Europe has, which the UK don't have.
Mm. And what do you put that down to then? Why are we behind?
I mean, this is I really don't know what is it? Is it cost? I mean, this is something I will shortly be getting into. Why is it that we don't have these treatments? Why are these treatments not being approved? Is it down to cost? If it is down to cost, then parents need to have an option, and then the whole system needs to change. I mean, something really needs to happen and say, okay, fine, or make it like an American system where parents can pay. I mean, but then then it's like the poor will never receive treatments in the UK because they won't be able to afford this, and the rich will be able to. So there'll be a division again. So that's something Minister himself. We need to approach the health minister. At some point, the foundation will approach him. That why do we not have all these treatments?
So this is what the work of the foundation will be, to actually campaign. Will it be a campaigning group, or will it just be a sort of an awareness group where you raise awareness of these issues?
We will be doing both. And the first thing that we want to do, the foundation is we set up a pediatric rehabilitation center, so that all these treatments that we've been talking about, we will be able to introduce them in the center for all these children. I mean, I'm not saying that we can take all the children. There's about 6,000 children every year with severe brain injuries. I'm not saying that we can take all of them. No, we can't. But it's like, even if we make one difference, then that is a difference.
So, Shelina, this is 6,000 children every single year who go through a similar experience to what Tafida went through.
Yes.
Which you just wouldn't think that this could happen to your child.
The current center has very limited beds. So for argument's sake, if they have 40 beds, then they are taking 40 children out of the 6,000. So what's happening to the remaining children is something we really don't know. Maybe later on we'll have more figures emerging, what is happening to the remaining children. But the data are showing that every year around 300,000 children sustain some form of head injuries. So they do go through the A&E, about 300,000. And where we are coming in is that, these children do not receive rehabilitation. We just don't have
the facilities. Yeah.
We just don't have it.
What?
So we want to, this project, sorry, Darren.
No, it's all right.
This center is going to be like the state-of-the-art center where we'll have all these treatments under one roof. So we are trying to bring our medical experts from abroad, from various countries, from America, France, Italy, Poland, all coming together with these treatments under one roof. So that's
your aim, yeah.
Mission.
Yeah. Who have been prominent supporters of getting behind the establishment of the Tafida Raqeeb Foundation? Who have been behind you saying, look, this needs to happen?
So we've had huge support from the politicians as well. So with Baroness Finlay. Baroness Finlay has been extremely supportive of this venture, and she has been campaigning for a while that, the UK needs not only one centre, we need several centres across the country. I mean, even us, we opening one centre is not sufficient. You need centres in every region. So she has been someone who has been really backing. And along with that, we do have other entrepreneurs. I'm not mentioning names at this moment, but we do have other pledges. We do have other pledges who are saying, no, the UK is almost like the only country in the world where parents' voices are being taken away. They are not being given a choice. And also these children, they need these treatments. And I know for sure that if Tafida had received these treatments at the beginning of her injury, the outcome would have been something else. Rather, we started treatments almost a year later. And there's a lot into brain science, that has done a lot of,
that's a lot of time.
really advancing. Yeah.
So then with the NHS in a nutshell, really, it's a very centralized system, right? It's a massive monolith of a system. Do you think that's the problem, Shelina, that it's just too centralized? So there are too many decision makers at the center of the NHS, but then on the periphery, you've got all of these unique treatments that need to take place for someone like Tafida, where, it's really quite unique gene therapy and all these other things that need to happen, where the NHS just can't keep up because it is so centralized. It's not like other systems, like the Gaslini or something like that.
It could be. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I haven't really looked into how they operate yet. I mean, I don't know whether it is centralized. Maybe it is. And this is why, before they agree to a treatment, it has to be passed on to like the National Health Service, the NSH commissioner himself. So I'm not really sure about how I haven't really looked into that, how they operate actually.
Yeah. So, but what you can say though, is that the way in which they do operate, to say to you, to try and convince you to terminate the life of your child, basically. I mean, that...
Oh, they're very convincing on that. That they know how to do.
Which is quite something. And you're not sure if that's down to cost or...
Yes, I mean, I was told on the 19th of June, this is how much I know with my dates. I can tell you everything in detail about Tafida, exact dates and what they said. I can tell you everything. On the 19th of June, they said it was a team of clinicians. They all said that she's heading for a major stroke in 2 weeks' time and she will die. If we don't, it was at that time they said, we should consider there was a procedure that needed to happen. And they said, it's best that we leave her as she is and let her slowly just drift away rather than doing this procedure. And I remember clearly, I said, how can we be so cruel? Tafida can barely open her eyes. How can us as parents allow her to slowly just drift away, knowing that these fluids are just accumulating in her brain? And I still remember my husband just burst in tears and he walked away. And it was me, with just basically at the forefront of everything. And I said, how can he possibly say I should let this fluid just accumulate and accumulate and accumulate? And slowly, she's already showing the signs that, we're losing her, and we should just let it go. And then you're saying, Islam, mercy, be merciful. And I completely, I said no, I am not going to allow that. You need to do the surgery. So I managed to convince them to do the surgery.
Yeah.
And it basically, they did the surgery, but it was like a few weeks later, they started the proceedings to end her life. And where I really want all our, the public to know this. And they said when they started the proceedings, and I am going to say this, if I was not a lawyer, on that day, what they did, I don't think I would have succeeded. I don't think I would have. I submitted an application first. They didn't. I went first because I said I had been telling them release Tafida, and then they said no. So I went first, and I said, I'm submitting these court proceedings if you don't release her, and I did. The next day I did, and I submitted my application first thing in the morning, and they, by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they submitted their application to withdraw care from Tafida. So we had two cases parallel to each other's, and they summoned me to court that afternoon. So I do know what they did. I don't think a lay person will be able to do all these things. By the time you book an appointment with a lawyer, you've passed the deadline. They've got the court order already. So the trauma that I went through, being, a lawyer myself, I can't get over it. So I don't see how a normal person, a lay person, will be able to get over such trauma.
So there will be people in Britain then whose children have been lost because, like, as you say, they don't understand the legal jargon. They don't understand what they have to do to submit an application.
Many, without a doubt, many. Another thing is that, we have a reporting restrictions in place. So you don't even know, you as a parent, you don't even know what is going on. Meanwhile, a reporting restrictions is already in place. So therefore, you can't even say anything. So many cases are not being reported at this moment. Even as we speak, many cases, but you just don't know about them. You just don't know about them. And another thing I'm going to say is that when they started the proceedings, they said that if Tafida suffered from any other infection or sepsis, they are not going to treat. They will actually make a special application to the court to withdraw. And when Tafida was in the hospital, in their care, from in the month of May and June, and even April, I think she did have quite a few infections, one after another. But that's another story that I will discuss another day. But Darren, where God has played a major role is that from the day of the proceedings, from July right till October, Tafida did not have a single sepsis. She carried on. There was nothing, and I was really worried, and I was thinking, if for any reason she had a sepsis, that's it. I will lose her, because they will submit an application and they'll say, look, this is it. She's deteriorating, but nothing happened. Nothing happened. She just carried on. And this is where I will say that God played a major role in there. Nothing happened. Not a single sepsis, not a single desaturation. She just carried on. She just carried on. Even when experts came to visit her, she was, I don't know, this must have been God. She was actually listening. She did do some of the commands that they asked her to do. So she just carried on. She carried on until the third. We came to Italy on the third, and they did the usual assessment, and that's when they discovered that she had a lot of fluids in her brain. A lot of fluids were accumulating. Something the UK clinicians said they're not going to touch. Since we started the court proceedings, they're not going to touch Tafida. But I am really, really, even till today, I am really surprised that despite having those fluids like heavily accumulated, her ventricles were really enlarged. She carried on. Nothing happened to her. So we came here on the third. On the fourth, they had to do a small procedure to relieve to actually release the pressure from her brain. And since then, she's carried on. We've had no issues with the brain. So you can see those several months, I will put it down to God. I will definitely put it down to God. Nothing happened.
And there are issues here, Shelina, around, and you're a solicitor, so you know this better than I do. Vital issues around civil liberties here, where people in Britain are being denied their right to choose to fight for their children.
They are, I will say, yes, they are. I will say that, I didn't know this. Even myself being a lawyer, I didn't, when the judgment was handed down, the judge said, Justice McDonald said, we are handing back the parental responsibility back to the parents. It was such a lovely, those words were really, really important and meaningful for us. And that's when I kind of really hit me hard. My God, when did they remove my parental responsibility? When did they take it away from me? That they're handing it back to me now. When did they take it? So that means the moment you enter a hospital with your child, the clinicians take your parental responsibility away from you. And that is something, a discovery, even for myself. So that means no one in the UK, parents don't know this. But I think parents need to know that, yes, the moment you enter a hospital, your parent, you need to question yourself, what is happening to your parental responsibility? Or ask the clinicians, ask them that question. Is my rights being taken away? Are you now in control of my child? Ask them.
I think that's happening more and more, actually, where your child isn't your own, right? But your child belongs to the state. And I think that's so wrong. I think that's so wrong, Shelina.
Our children are not our children. They are the state's children. You're absolutely correct.
And will your foundation be raising awareness for these sort of issues as well?
Yeah. So our main target, well, we've got a timeline. So our main target would be that we would want to raise funds ASAP and get this off the ground. We want to start working on our project. We want to start getting this center, and then at the same time, we'll be doing a lot of awareness campaigns. One thing that we're very keen on doing is across the country will be know your legal rights while in the hospital. You need to know your legal rights. So yes, that's another campaign that will be raising a lot of awareness across the country.
I like that. I think that's so important. I do. I'll put a link, Shelina, in the description so that people can access your website and find out how they can support the foundation.
Yes, we do need. I've said many times in the past that this foundation is not our foundation. Tafida is out of the actual what happened to her. She's out. She's receiving treatment. Yes, delayed treatment, but she's there. She's alive. This is not our foundation. This is everyone's foundation. And everyone should be able to benefit from this. This foundation will bring everyone together, all communities, all faith, all religion. Everyone should come together and support this foundation. this foundation will be the way forward for all our children. So it's, I have spent a lot of time, putting everything together. I actually initiated this foundation while being with Tafida. I actually have been in a closed room. I mean, people are complaining about lockdown in coronavirus, like the COVID time. I've actually been in one room with Tafida. So I sleep, eat, wake, do everything with her because I don't leave her alone. I stay with her. I just can't. I think the trauma that I've gone through, I don't think I want to leave her for a second. So I only went to the launch, just to do the launch and return, but we do have family members with her. So I'm going to say to everyone, every viewer, is that look, whichever way, come on board and support. This is your foundation. This is not my foundation. This is your foundation. This is everyone's foundation. We should all be able to come forward and unite for this foundation, and so that another child, another parent doesn't have to go through what we have gone through, don't have to leave the country because of what has happened. We should be able to provide these treatments in the UK for these children. So please do come forward.
Shelina Begum, thank you very much for your time, and God bless Tafida as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, the link to support the foundation will be in the description, so please do consider clicking the link and going through and seeing ways in which you can support the foundation. The work, I think, is so important, because I think that's absolutely right, pivotal for me, that civil liberties, the right to actually, to parental responsibility is being removed here. And the NHS are the ones responsible, and I think that needs to be something that is addressed and highlighted. I really, really do. I'll see you next time.